of love and universal consciousness with your host, Janet Kira Lesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. Our producer is Deborah DeFranco, and you're listening to Revolution Radio on Studio B. Today, our guest is Kerri Kannan, and she's had 20 years of teaching, coaching, speaking, and studying the nature of consciousness. She's well-versed in the language of self-love and realization. After studying the spiritual themes for many years, in 1998, she had her first major spiritual epiphany and realized that all challenges came from a lack of self-love. Over the years, her focus has remained on self-love. However, her definition of the self has radically transformed. So we're going to be talking about that. I have a page for her on aquarianradio.com. I invite you to go over there. You can see pictures and more information on Kerri. I'm going to let her tell you more about her work instead of me reading it. Dr. Lesson, hi.
Hi. I'm very interested in what you've got to say, Kerri. Of course, in Transcendental Existentialism, we look at all different levels of self and not self and incorporate the not self into the self, and that's the growing self until you can identify with all of it and disidentify with any part of it. It's so that I find that whatever your approach is, you're working with the same problems that I do in my studies. So I'm looking forward to your presentation, Kerri.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to this.
To our show, Kerri.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's really an honor and a pleasure and a privilege, and I'm really excited. So, yay.
We're delighted to have you. So what we'd like to do is we'd like you to tell us about yourself, how you got started, what your work is about. We're going to listen to you for about 10, 15 minutes. Well, maybe if we're lucky. Sometimes we get excited. But anyway, start telling us what's going on with you, how you began this work, a little bit of your path in life. And we're going to listen.
Okay. So, well, I can tell you the whole story. Or I can tell you little bits and pieces. It probably will take me about 25 minutes to tell the whole thing. So I don't know if you want me to go that deep into it. But okay.
No, go ahead.
All right.
The whole thing.
All right. So I guess it started so when I was a kid, I always sort of had body image issues, like many women, especially in Western world, we're sort of, seen as how beautiful we are. And I was always very self-critical of my body. And I grew up like that, with criticism of my body. So I perceived that I was flawed and that I was, dysfunctional in some way. And that dysfunction arose from my lack of self-love, which I didn't realize until later on. But I was always, self-critical. And in 1998, I was about to get married, and my now ex-husband suggested to me that I figure out what I really wanted to do, because he was making like 6 times what I was making, and he wanted me to be happy. And so I was like, wow, that's really an awesome gift. If I'm able to figure out, like, do anything I want to do, I want to figure out my life purpose. And I was very clear in that I wanted for my life purpose to be something that I could travel with the rest of my life, that would grow with me, that I would never get tired of, and that provided meaning, to me, and purpose and all of that. And so I first studied what color is your parachute, which kind of helps you understand what you're good at. But that didn't really tell me what I would bring meaning and fulfillment to me. So I had also been a student of A Course in Miracles, And there's a little passage in A Course in Miracles that talks about the special function. And basically, it says, in a nutshell, the reality of what you perceive to be your flaw is your special function. So healing that is your special function. And I was like, okay, what's my special function? And I was like, I'm fat. And I was like, or like, what was my special dysfunction? Because what you perceive to be your special dysfunction is the opposite of your special function. So I was like, what's my special dysfunction? I was like, I'm fat. And I was like, no, that's not really it. I don't like myself. And then I was like, no, that's not really it either. I don't love myself. And when I had that thought, I started jumping around my living room, thanking everyone who had ever hurt me, because I realized that they were showing me the context to understand the content of my thinking. So that's kind of the foundation of where I came from. And then from there, everything else was an expansion. So I've always had this thought that, okay, if consciousness or God or whatever you want to call it permeates all things, and if prayer is effective and things like that, and things like miracles can happen, and if this consciousness lives through me and is a part of me as it is everything else, then there must be a simple way for me to be able to access that and enhance my life as well as the lives of others. And so that has sort of been one of those things that's sort of been lightly on my mind through probably my whole life. I don't really know the origination point where I had that idea, but that's sort of been with me my whole life. Okay, like if that's true, that God or consciousness or whatever you want to call it lives through me, then I should be able to access that. So in lightly carrying that through my life, it's sort of been a guidepost for me. And, like many people, I've gone through, really challenging times. And I feel like those of us who have sort of dedicated our lives to growth and, realization have, the universe just throws us everything in the kitchen sink. And, it challenges us so that we can really dig deeply to find the truth of our nature. And, I've certainly had my real challenges. And so I'm going to tell you some things that have transpired between myself and my ex-husband, but I want to make it clear right now, he has been a gift to me. So even though he's done some things that have seemed, really sort of, harsh and things like that, if it were not for him being so good at being such a jerk, I would never, ever have claimed the amount of power that I have claimed. So I just want to make that clear now, that I know that on, a higher level, there is a deep love there that can't really be recognized on this sort of earthly plane that we're living in. So go ahead.
We both have exes like that, and they were critical for us to grow and become who we are. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
we understand.
Yes, absolutely. So I just want the listeners to know that, because I don't want people to think that, oh, she's just a scorned woman, because I've heard that before, and it's like, obviously, if that's what you got out of this, you didn't get anything out of it. So anyway, so after, we started having kids and things like that, my ex-husband and I started having some problems. And I've always delved into my spiritual side. And so ultimately, we got a divorce. And at first it was very, amicable. And then afterwards, we went through 6 different custody battles, and he really did everything that he could to try and destroy me financially and destroy my relationship with my children, which really forced me into, a deep darkness. And I was looking for the light. I probably, for a full year, I probably cried myself to sleep every day. But from that, I never lost my connection with, the source of who I am. And at one point, before we actually split up, I went on a spiritual retreat to Unity Village in Lee's Summit, Missouri. Now, I had been like I had at one point said, I'll never go to church again. It's all, BS. That's just not for me. And then I had a friend drag me to a Unity church, and I was like, oh, they kind of conform to the way I think. So, okay, I can deal with this. I can do this. And it was, spiritually nourishing to me. And I was also part of like online spiritual groups like Advaita Vedanta and things like that, which is non-dualistic thinking. So, I've always been on that path. And so I went to this spiritual retreat at Unity Village, and so when you go there, I took the SEE program, which is Spiritual Enrichment and Education. And it consisted of like a prayer group and like a prayer lecture in the morning or whatever. And then there were 4 classes a day. Each class was 2 hours for 5 days out of the week. So it's like 8 hours a day of this really intense spiritual study. And, when you're in a group like that and in an atmosphere like that, it's like a collective high energy vibe. And so during that week, 2 of my classes, my 2 afternoon classes, were both taught by the same woman. And one of the classes was like the Old Testament, and the other one was Jesus's teachings. And I just want to make it clear too, before I delve into this, that this work is not specific to Christianity. That just happens to be my background. And it happens to be sort of where I landed. But again, I also have studied Advaita Vedanta. I'm very much into non-duality. So it's not specific to that. And in fact, I've had a marketing manager who was a devout Muslim. And in the Muslim religion, you're like anything that is not, Allah based is like sacrilege. And because the work that I do is pretty open to like a universal consciousness, it was not against her religion. And she said that the work that we did together, the work that I did that, she was then a big part of, really helped to deepen her relationship with her spirituality as a Muslim. So I just wanted to make that sort of clear that this is not Christian based. It's, it's something that we all have access to. All of life has access to it. So anyway, in this program that I was at, this teacher who was teaching the 2 afternoon courses, on Monday, she did not have her hand in a splint. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, she did. And somebody asked her in the class, what happened with her hand, and she said that she had gotten into a car accident like 10 years before, and ever since then she would have this pain in her hand every once in a while, and she'd have to wear a splint. So on Wednesday we were going through the miracles, like biblical miracles, and I asked myself at the 1 hour point when we had our little break, if there was anything I could do to help heal her hand, and I got a yes. And I said, okay, what do I need to do? And I got just no. And I was like, really? Just no? And I got just no. So I went back into the class and I held her hand. I looked her in the eye and I said, I don't know how. I just know that your hand is healed. And then 2 seconds later, somebody else came in and said, hey, your hand is healed already. And an important part of that is that I really had to get myself out of the way. Like I had to really, it was almost felt like a physical energy I needed to trust and get myself out of the way. Because that class that day, we were going through all these miracles, and the energy in that class was so high that I literally knew that we could do anything that he could do that was, in the Bible or whatever. So the next day we came back and she wasn't wearing her splint on her hand. And somebody asked her what happened. And she said, I woke up this morning and my hand felt better than it had since before my accident. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And then like a year later, so after this is all done, a year later, she's sending out, little emails, Jesus jokes, things like that. And I asked her, I said, do you remember when we were in class, like I told you that your hand was healed. The next day you came in and you said that it was completely fine, that it was healed. I said, how's that going? Is it still, did it stick, And she said, wow, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, my hand is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's completely fine. I didn't even remember that my hand was hurt for so long. So that was what I consider my touchstone, to understand that we do have this power. It lives within us, and we can direct consciousness or facilitate miracles or whatever you want to call it from your background. And so then for 10 years, so that was in 2004. And for 10 years, I was trying to understand how I got back to that spot. And then again, I would be thrust into, a custody battle, or, for a short period of time, my ex-husband extracted my children away from me, and, all of this stuff. And, during one of those times, I was like, okay, I really need to figure this money thing out, because I was just being bulldozed financially, with all of the lawyer fees, and like I had to. So his household was making about $400,000. I was making a fraction of that. And I was paying him child support. Like, I was being forced to pay him child support. So it was just really, really, bad. But it was good, because it forced me to look for answers within myself. So I came to one point where I was like, all right, I want to have someone in my life who is magnetic to money. Like, they don't even have to do anything. They just breathe and money comes to them. And I want this person to be a man, because I respond differently to men than I do women. And I want this person to either be married or gay, because I did not want to, entangle my romance with my finance. And, I just wanted to keep them separate, but I wanted this person who was like my best friend, and that I adored him, he adored me. And I wanted to have a gift that was equally valuable to him as his sort of teaching me how to respond to money, or, be in the flow of money was, because that was important for me to learn, but I wanted to be able to offer him something equally valuable and important. And interestingly enough, so the next day, and what I did was I put this thing together called the 5 Keys to Conscious Creation, which so I just meditated, and I asked, okay, how can I create this person? How can I bring this into my life? And I meditated, and I was given the 5 steps, which we can talk about later. And then the next day, I was in this network marketing business, and I had a woman that was, trying to help me, but she was in my direct upline, but she wasn't making any money from me. And for whatever reason, I had the thought come over me to tell her that I appreciate all that she's doing for me, but I really need somebody who's going to make money from my success. And could she introduce me to somebody, in my upline who would make money from my success? And so she said, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this guy. And she's like, he's our area director, or whatever his title was. And this guy was supposed to be, ahead of me. And I had gone to all of the meetings for the last 4 months. I never heard of this guy in my life. And so she texted him and told him about me. And she put me in touch with him. And we started texting each other. And then one day I just decided to give him a call. And he said to me, he was like, oh, hold on a second. And I didn't realize it at the time. But when he said, hold on a second, he sat up in bed, which one would not think was significant, but it was, because a few years before, he had open heart surgery. And when you have open heart surgery, he had like a quadruple bypass. And when you have open heart surgery, your body goes through such a huge trauma that the life expectancy of a person who's had open heart surgery is typically about 5 years. And he had actually, the 4 months that I had been in this business, he had actually literally been in bed pretty much the whole time, and he was waiting to die. And so when he heard my voice on the phone, something in him started getting better. And I had no idea at the time. So fast forward about 2 months, we were talking about this business, and he was helping me with the business. And then there was a huge event that was going to be in my area, because he had built up that business around my area. Like, pretty much everybody in my area was in his downline. And he was in Texas, and he came to New York. And he asked me if I would be his assistant during that time, like to help him out, because he would have panic attacks that would last for like an hour and a half. And so when I would be driving around with him and then he would start having a panic attack, and then naturally I would just put my hands, one hand on his chest and one hand on his back, because I'm a Reiki master, and that would calm him down within like a couple minutes. So he ended up staying in New York for about 4 weeks. And in that period of time, his panic attacks, and he was also taking Xanax. His panic attacks went from like an hour and a half, which is so long for something like to be going through something like that, to like 3 minutes. So by the time he went back to Texas, from me helping him and working together with him, his anxiety went down, and he went from taking like, I think like 2 Xanax a day to like a half a pill or something like that. So, I realized later that the very, very next day, after I sort of went through that process of, okay, how can I create this person in my life? And it was like, it took me a while. It was like 45 minutes, the whole process. But I realized that the very next day, things were activated. Like even in that moment, things were activated. And the very next day, things started going in motion for me to create this person, because like even to this day, he's one of my closest friends. He's married with 2 kids. I adore him. He adores me. He's the kind of guy that at the time, I don't know what he's making now, but and he's making more now, but I haven't asked him. At the time, he was making like $40,000 a month, just fishing and going to Dick's and buying lures. And like he would sit there and talk to somebody, and he was running his business just in his daily life while he was just living his life, and he was able to be as carefree as he wanted to be because he loved this thing that he was doing. So it showed me, afterwards in retrospect, that the very next day things were already in motion, and that exactly what I asked for. Like he was, he was married, best friend. I adored him. He adored me. And I could offer him something as valuable as what he offered me. And he's told me several times, he's like, Kerri, if it weren't for you, I'd be dead right now, because you literally saved my life, when I met you. So that was the next step in understanding this power. And keep in mind, it took me 10 years to try and get back to that consciousness where I was in that room with all of those people when I facilitated the healing of that hand. So it took that long for me to, clear the way, so that I could experience that again. But it took longer, it was a process at that point. Then,
Right.
Yeah. And then a few years later, going through something else with my ex-husband again. And I realized that, so at the time I was doing my podcast called World Awakened Talk Radio. I was also doing audio editing for this woman. I was building websites for this guy who was sort of farming me out. And I was receiving support from my ex-husband. And I was getting along okay. I was working for myself, and I wasn't working a 9-to-5 job or anything. But I realized I saw another pattern, and the guy who I was doing the websites for, like I was doing these beautiful, elaborate, like $5,000 websites, and I was getting paid $1,200 per website, and it took me like a month to do each website. And I told the guy that I was doing these sites for, I was like, listen, I either need to do less elaborate websites or you need to pay me more. And he came back to me with, oh, I'm doing you a favor. I could go to India and have somebody do these for me. You should be grateful and all of that. And I was just like, wow, I felt so trapped. I felt like, holy mackerel, I'm stuck in this situation. And I had just gone through another custody battle with my ex-husband where he was able to completely extract my kids away from me for a while. So I was no longer going to be receiving support. And I had this really controlling relationship with this client. And then I had this one other client left, and I was doing my World Awakened Talk Radio. And I was like, all right, I see this pattern and I want it gone. And I sent in a prayer request to Silent Unity, which is part of that Unity organization. And I said, all right, I see this pattern where I have these dysfunctional relationships with money and men, and I want positive relationships with money and men. And I see this pattern, I want it gone, and I want it replaced with something better. And I told them that, they did their prayer. And within 10 minutes, I came across this woman's work on YouTube. And she did very similar work to what I do right now. So there are a couple people in the world that I'm aware of that do similar work to what I do. And I listened to what she did on this YouTube video. And one of the prayers, I don't remember what she called it, but one of her prayers had to do with releasing fear of not having enough money. And one of them had to do with anxiety around money or something like that. It was two very similar things, but they were different in some way. And within 3 minutes, like by the time she was done talking, my panic, because at that time I was panicking about money, and I was like, I felt trapped and I was panicked and all of this. And within 3 minutes, I felt so calm and at ease. And so simultaneously, I realized as soon as that was done, and I was in a state of ease and sort of tranquility, I realized that my ex-husband and I had just gone through this custody battle again, and he had extracted my kids, so I would no longer be receiving support, and I had to fire this client. I just couldn't work with this client anymore. So I fired the client, and so all of a sudden, 95% of my income just completely vanished. And it was from the controlling male elements. And I just had this one left where I was making like $250 a month for doing this audio editing. And, oddly enough, I guess it might seem, I'm in this place of complete peace and tranquility. And for 2.5 weeks, I'm sitting on my couch, just meditating and asking if there was anything that I could do to bring in some more income. And I got, just wait. So I'd wait, sometimes 5 minutes, and I'd say, is there anything I can do now to bring in some financial income? And I got, just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait. So I waited. And then I had this guest who was going to be on my program. And he wanted to do a pre-interview. So I was like, okay, that's great. I have nothing else going on. I'm just sitting on my couch meditating all day, wondering, how I'm going to create some abundance. And we had our pre-interview and we got along really, really well. And he asked me, so I told him that I found him through this woman who I was doing the audio editing for. So I edited one of her interviews and I was like, wow, this guy's stuff is really amazing. I want him on my show. And so, I got in touch with him and he said, how many people do you know like her? And I was like, I don't know, hundreds. Those are my people. And he said, if you can connect me with people like that, I will pay you $500 a piece. I was like, really? How many do you want? And he was like, as many as you can get. So I was able to get him like 10 a week. And this went on for a couple months. So I'll let the viewers do the math. So 10 a week times 4 weeks times a couple of months. And so all of a sudden, I went from making $250 a month because I lost the other, no more support, no more anything. And then I went to making over 20 grand a month, just like that. And it was from sitting on my couch. And so I realized in that moment that, there was something in this that I had listened from that woman. And so what I did was I tried to find anything that I could. I wanted to know, okay, what was she doing? How can I access it? Can she help me with other things like body image stuff? Like, I wanted more. And she was charging at the time $1,000 an hour, or so she said. She was charging $1,000 an hour, which I could afford. And so I tried to hunt her down, and she was completely inaccessible and unavailable. There was no way that I could contact her. So I started listening to her recordings online, and then she started to really irritate me because people would ask her, hey, I love your work. I love what you're doing. Can I can you teach me how to do it? Or can I have your script? Or, can I somehow, incorporate this into my life? And her response was always, oh, I'm the one with the gift. Nobody else can do it. And knowing that I had healed this person's hand previously, and that I knew that what she was saying was complete crap. So I was like, all right, screw this. I am gonna claim this for myself, because I've already done it. I don't need your permission to tell me that I can do it. I've already done it, and I'm gonna claim this. So that's what I did. I came up with my own sort of script. And because of the work that I've done with, unity consciousness, and recognizing that, that consciousness that is all things also lives through me. So there's no separation. So, prior to that, I spent 20 years working on my consciousness. And this person hadn't, she was like, she hadn't come from that realm. She just was given an attunement or something, and she was told that she could do it, so she believed that she could do it, and then she did it. And I was just like, well, I can do that too. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And if you're going to tell me I can't do it, I'm going to show you that I can. And so I started asking for guinea pigs, and my friends are like, oh, like Horseshack, right? They're like, oh, pick me. And so so I did, and I started practicing on my friends. And at the time, I was in a collaborative book project with a bunch of other authors, and the collaborating author asked me to do one for her. And I was like, absolutely. And so she said that she wanted for our book to be a bestseller, and she wanted to heal her relationship with her daughter. So I did a consciousness alignment for what I now call a consciousness alignment for the book. And I was like, well, it's nice that you want the book to be a bestseller, but why don't we go for a #1 international bestseller? And she was like, can we do that? I was like, we can ask, you can put it out there. And so right. I did a consciousness alignment for that. And then she wanted consciousness alignment to heal her relationship with her daughter. Now, her daughter had just turned 18, and she had just graduated. She was sitting around the house. So she had an agreement with her daughter. She was like, either because her daughter is like one of the most stunning kids I've ever seen. And she had a shopping habit. She's a beautiful kid, likes to wear beautiful, expensive clothes. And so her mother said, okay, you either need to get a job or you need to go on the dole, because I cannot afford to, support your lifestyle. And she's in Australia, so I don't know how welfare works over there, but that's what she did. She went on the dole, which is equivalent to welfare. And so then her daughter is sitting around the house doing nothing all day. She's able to buy the clothes that she wants, but she's not contributing in any meaningful way. So she was driving her mother up the wall. And so that's the point where my friend was like, okay, she needs something. I want to heal my relationship with her. And I was like, I know you, and I know you have a good relationship with your daughter, but it sounds like the kid just needs to get a job, and she needs something that brings meaning into her life and where she feels happy about herself. And then I said, how about what we'll do is we will align her with her 18-year-old dream job, and that her joy about her life will spill over into her relationship with you, and then that will heal the relationship. How's that sound? And she was like, wow, that sounds great to me. So that's what I did. I did a consciousness alignment for that. And then for the book, I did a consciousness alignment that book would be a #1 international bestseller. So a couple of weeks later, she called me, and that's not the only, this is just my favorite of that time period. I had people that were saying they had people sent them huge checks around Christmas time that they weren't expecting, and all sorts of different things. But this is my favorite story because it's a twofer. So we're a couple weeks later, we were talking about the book, and I was doing the web development for it at the time. And so she said to me, I have to tell you what happened with my daughter. So she was in her favorite boutique, spending her check, and the shop clerk approached her and asked her how she would feel about modeling for their internet and print presence. She would be able to make money, she'd get a discount, and if she wanted to start a modeling portfolio, she'd be able to do that too. So it was like, bingo, check, 18-year-old dream job done. So the next part, isn't that amazing? It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next part was that our book, it took longer because we had rewrites and we had editing, you know, the whole long drawn out book process. But on on Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving 2014, our book went to #1 in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and the Netherlands. So it became a #1 international bestseller. So that was just what told me, holy mackerel, what I've got here is just completely phenomenal. And then there are other stories, like other, like success stories beyond that, I can talk about later as well. So that's, in a nutshell, that's my long extended 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you, I know you were just saying how you do it, but like, how do you do it? What's going on? Have you figured it out? Like in the cosmos, are you moving molecules, or, what are you doing?
Yeah. So, that's my big question. So since then I'm like always delving into like quantum physics, because that comes closest. So metaphysics is the aspect of quantum physics that nobody can explain. So there are things within quantum physics like, okay, why did this happen? Why did that happen? It's the unexplainable. So that's where metaphysics comes in, right? So but quantum physics quantum physics itself is really weird. Like, even these scientists will say, well, if you don't think quantum physics is weird, then you don't know quantum physics, and these are Nobel Prize winning physicists. So there's a couple things that I'm going to sort of touch on regarding the science, and then we can talk about like other things. But so the physics. Wow, it's a new first day with my new tongue. The physics itself is like totally outrageous. So I'm sure you've heard of like the slit experiment, where they would shoot a photon into like a splitter, and they would see the same photon. It would be in two different places. And so and people have heard this, but I'm just going to explain it sort of in layman's terms, because I am not a scientist, and I just try and understand it to the best of my ability, because I'm always trying to understand, okay, why is it, like your question, why is it that I can do the things that I do? It can't just be all woo-woo. There's got to be a reason behind it. It can't, because I'm not, like, if it's all woo-woo, it just sounds just, kooky. And there's got to be a reason. There has to be a reason. So I've been delving into this. So there's this thing called entanglement, where if you have let's just call it a vessel of water, because it really is for anything, but let's just call it a vessel of water. So if you have a vessel of water and you take half of that water, pour it into a jar, and send it to some remote location where the two are seemingly completely disconnected, and you agitate the water in one vessel, the water in the other vessel will act as if it's also being agitated. So that is entanglement. And if you have a plant and you separate it into two different separate it and put the same thing, you take the plant and move it to, from, the North Pole to the South Pole, and you burn the leaf on one plant, the plant on from the plant on the North Pole, if you burn a leaf, the plant on the South Pole will act as if it feels the pain from burning the leaf. So they've done this experiment by hooking it up to what's the lie detector? A polygraph, and the leaf, the plant in the remote location has acted as if it were being burned. And, this happens in our lives too. We're entangled with other people in our lives, and we will have an intuition or a knowing that something is happening with somebody else. And a lot of times we dismiss it because, that's kind of what we're taught, that, it's all in your head or whatever. But that's actually a real thing. it's quantum entanglement. And the beauty of that is that, so everybody's, I don't know if everybody has, but, we've heard of Dr. Emoto's, like the water, the experiments with water and the water crystals and things like that. And when it comes to water, like our bodies are whatever, some 70% or greater, water. And the thing with water is we ingest it, we excrete it, it evaporates, it goes into the ocean, it, evaporates from the ocean, it rains in China. And then, it's like this cyclical thing where the water on the planet is commingled, it's intermingled. Once it's in the ocean, it's all in one vessel. And then, if it rains on a crop of corn in whatever, say it rains at the Dole plantation, then, we're all eating pineapples from Dole all over the place. And, then that water from that pineapple that was once in the ocean, that was, landed from somebody sweating in China, is all intermingled with all of us. So that entanglement, that consciousness that lives in the water is now in everything. So that's why we have these sort of psychic experiences. So that's my understanding of it. And as I've delved deeper into the quantum physics of it all, and then there are other things as well, so there's this scientist, his name is Carlo Rovelli, and he deals with quantum gravity and time. And he basically says that time doesn't exist, and it depends upon your location. So the closer you are to a large body like the Earth, the more you'll experience time. And, so if you're in a far out galaxy or something, or if you're moving, if your speed is moving, you may actually say something or experience something. And, and we know this, then in 2 million years, it'll reach that far out star out there, so they might see something that happened. And then 2 million years later, in the same moment, the same perceived moment, it'll actually be a transmission that was, 2 million years ago. But time can also go backwards. And, really the time that we have, and Carlo Rovelli is awesome. And I can't explain his science like he does. He's just like amazing to me. And I just try and absorb and try and understand. So, we have him talking about time. And then there's a scientist, his name is Rupert Sheldrake, who I actually, when I teach people how to sort of claim this for themselves, I use part of Rupert Sheldrake's book, Science Set Free. And in there, he talks about how a future potentiality can actually influence events in the past that converge on the now to make that future potentiality become an actuality. And we do that with our intentions. So our intentions, like say I decide I'm going to go visit you in Hawaii, and that's an intention. Then once I set that intention, there will be circumstances and serendipities and things like that that will converge on each moment of now, or on a moment of now, whenever that moment is, to help facilitate that future potentiality becoming an actuality. And there's all this different science behind it that is like amazing. There have been experiments where people were given a test like they were told to write down when a tone would show up in the right ear or the left ear. And so then those tones were recorded. And then they later played that recording for the first time to another set of people who they were told to try and influence this machine. They thought it was a machine. They didn't realize it was a recording, to tone only in the right ear. And so they would do that. And they found that from the initial experiment, when they recorded these tones in the right ear or left ear, that when it was actually played back and the person was trying to influence it being in the right ear or in the left ear, it actually changed. The recording actually changed so that you couldn't really tell, in many of them, whether it was in the right ear or the left ear, or some of them, switched over to the other ear. So what that has to do with all of this is that there has to be an observer. And and they found that, and science tells us this, that everything is in a superpositionality of like a waveform until we observe it. And then when we observe it, it freezes. And then when we're no longer observing it, it goes back into waveform. So my question is, what is the relationship between the observer and the observed? So the way I see it, if something does not freeze until it's observed, how does it know? So therefore, I feel like the observer has to be the observed. There has to be a connection there. And a lot of science, there are scientists who have no problem with, their religion. They see no conflict with religion, and they're Nobel Prize winning scientists and all of this. And then there are others that, completely deny that. So for the deniers, I ask, if if I'm observing a television set and, it shows up on TV, and if I'm not looking at it, it's, sort of just in waveform, how does that TV know? It has to be the same, like it has to be an aspect of consciousness. There has to be one. It can't be a duality. So that's why
Kerri?
I think this works. Go ahead.
Kerri, can we
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead, Sash.
In existentialism, we say that your intentions are manifest in what you've actually got. And if that be the case, then I would say, you intended all the contretemps you had with your husband, and you got it. And it sounds like from what you said, your intention was to give yourself the lessons you needed to evolve into a higher level of consciousness. In other words, what you intended, whether you're conscious of it or not, is what you've got. And so that you make yourself crazy by thinking you've got to have what you've not instead of digging what you've got.
Yeah, it's one level. What about Rupert Sheldrake? What she was saying about quantum entanglement?
I find that, there's the Akashic records, or the singularity within every molecule of the universe and every level of consciousness, from entire universes to inside of a cell and inside the protons of a cell, are fractals that have a connection which is not bound by time or space, which are merely our intellectual filters, but are part of a whole. And so everything is an intentional web, in my way of looking at stuff.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. So you were talking about observing.
Yeah. So that,
go ahead.
I was really actually done with that. So So for those who, for the scientist who's like, no, there's no such thing as consciousness, or consciousness is irrelevant. Like, let's take Occam's razor and just, say that consciousness, it's irrelevant. To my way of seeing things, once it's measured, like you can measure things with a measuring device, like with a, some sort of like a Geiger counter or whatever, but then something has to then read the Geiger counter. So there has to be something needs to be involved in there to measure it, to see it. So to go back to answer the original question, my perception is that with this work, I'm sort of thanking the universe in a way for aligning people with, positive intentions in their lives, and people then. There's a way to receive a consciousness alignment, which basically you have to listen to my words and just say yes, and then consciousness does all the work. And from my perspective, the why I think it works is because I've done enough clearing for my life, and when I put it out there, it's a pure intention for somebody, and then they can receive it, and then the universe or consciousness or whatever. Gathers and forms so that person listening to my voice can have a unique experience to them, and the universe just orchestrates everything around it so that it can just really just deliver into their lap.
Interesting. Deborah, are you there? Do you have any questions or comments?
I do, but I want to save it for the end. I don't want to, or the second half. I want to hear the rest of this story, because I had some questions earlier and then they got answered as she was talking. So I kind of want to hold on to them until the second half.
Okay. So go ahead.
So
continue with.
So more recently, I've had from doing podcasts and interviews and things like that, there have been other people who have gotten back to me and told me, without me doing a private consciousness alignment for them, all along I'll do this work, and people every once in a while will get back to me and tell me of their experience. And there's this one guy, his name is he's an artist. Apparently at the time that he heard me, he was a struggling artist, and he doesn't mind me using his name because he's written a testimonial for me, and I've asked him, but his name is Paulo Cunha. And he listened to me talk on a podcast, and he said that the very next day, and he felt something shift in his body, and he said that the very next day he was asked to do a solo art exhibit in Portugal, and then he was asked to do one in the Maldives. And he also was connected with somebody within the art community who he developed a very special friendship with. And then after that, he said within the 6 weeks between the time that he listened to my podcast and the time that he was, gave me the testimonial, that he was asked to do those 2 art exhibits, he met this person, and he was asked to have his artwork put on display at the Louvre in Paris. And as a struggling artist, to have all of those things happen in that short period of time, he said, Kerri, I know it was from your consciousness alignments. I know that's what it was from. And, I've had people who have, done my programs and things like that, who they're like, just, it seems like just the universe opens up, and like just gifts just land in your lap without even having to try. It's just, you live your life, you do the things that you seem that you just want to do. No effort. There's no efforting. There are no processes, no anything. And things just like gifts just land in your lap. And so that's, what I've been told about this work and this process.
So how would I start?
So,
and we don't have we have like I guess 4 minutes, but anyway, we can Go ahead. How would
I would love to, so I think so the way you would start is I would say you would want to get involved with the 5 keys to conscious creation, which is a really simple process, and I'll just kind of run through it really quickly here, and we can talk about it more on in the next hour if you want to. But it's a really simple process, and people can write this down. So the first step in this process is to get clear on what you want. So when I created that experience with the gentleman in my life who just money is just magnetic to him, I thought that I wanted a partner to help me, a partner who had money to help me, but really I didn't. I was struggling with that. So I had to get clear on what I wanted, and I didn't want a partner. I just wanted a friend, who I was as important to him as he was to me. And so I had to get rid of. So the first step is to get clear on what you want, and then I had all these things in the way of that vision. So I was like, well, who would want to spend that amount of time with me? And if he was married, why would he want to spend time with me? If he was gay, why would he want to do that? And what would entice him to want to help me in this way? So I had to get rid of all that muck that was sort of in the way, like release all of the doubts and the things that were like, well, he would have to do this, or he'd have to be like that, or whatever. So the first step is get clear. The second step is to get rid of, like, release the things that you perceive are in the way of that pure thought. And then the third is to feel it in your heart as if it has already happened. So a way to do that is to just kind of put your hand on your heart, and instead of feeling it in your head or thinking it, just bring that thought down to your heart and feel it as if it has already happened. You can state things out loud. For me, I was like, oh, I'm so happy and grateful that I have this great camaraderie with this friend, and I adore him, he adores me, and he's helping me out with the money thing, and I am an equal, I'm equally valuable in his life, and things like that. So you feel it in your heart. And then you allow that feeling to transition to gratitude. like I'm, just really sort of radiate gratitude for it. And then the hardest part of that is you need to take all of that after you've built up all that energy. And this process took me about 45 minutes, and you need to let it go. You can't be attached to it. You need to just let it go. And the way that I did the letting go, and the way that I got rid of the strings, the things that were in the way, like the step 2, was using emotional freedom techniques. And if people don't know what that is, you can go to emofree.com, download a little tutorial, and it'll explain what that is. So that's what I did. So the first step is get clear. The second step is to release everything that's in the way of that pure vision. The third step is to feel it in your heart as if it has already happened. The fourth step is to turn that into gratitude for it having already happened. And the fifth step is to completely let it go. And then from there, we're good.
From there, we're good. Okay. So the music's going to come in 1 minute. Go ahead, honey.
Well, in existentialism, we suggest, in a way, it's interesting to want what you've already got and not suffer for what you don't have. And it comes out to the same conclusion you do, that what you want is contrafactual, and what you've got is really what you intend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what's your book? Our music will be coming on any moment now, but you said you wrote a book. Are you a co-author on that?
So I have a singular book and I have a co-author book. So the one that went to #1, I co-authored with 16 other authors. It's called Embraced by the Divine, The Emerging Woman's Gateway to Power, Passion, and Purpose. And then my own book is called Uncovering the Divine Within, A Journey of Self-Love.
Okay, I'm going to can I find that at Amazon?
Yes.
Or where? Okay. Be back in a few minutes, about 4.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning, warning.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started? be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix. And I'm your host, Janet Kerri Lesson. I'm here with Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. And our producer is Deborah DeFranco. Our guest today is Kerri Kannan. And we're talking about how you discover your hidden power to command consciousness. And before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio, top left tab. You can make your one-time donation. A Patreon link, you can make a recurring donation. And we do thank you very much for your donations, because that keeps us on the air. So thank you very much, and aloha. So we were talking about all kinds of things in the first part of the show. It's hot here today. Woo, now it's hot. What would you like to say?
Well, I do want, Kerri, I would really like it to hear again the 5 steps, because I think these are absolutely wonderful. You first of all see how your wants are driving you crazy, then you let go of them and dig. This is a complete system, and it's just 5 steps, and I love it. So I'd like you to iterate them again for everybody. What are the 5 steps?
Right, and Kerri, would you please send them to me so I can put them on the site here? And I also need you to send me the information about your books so I can grab those. I like to put these, I have a permanent site, I'll refer to it, and we'll have the links for people to buy your book. They're going to want to buy your book and that types of thing. So, okay, continue. 5 steps.
All right.
Slow it down.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So the first step, and now that we have a little bit more time, I can kind of go into it a little bit more. So, and I'll sort of draw it out a little bit. So just so that everybody's aware, these 5 steps are to help you sort of take the first baby step in doing the stuff that you'll be experiencing, I hope, a little bit later. Because now I kind of take these all 5 steps and they mosh them together because I can hold that consciousness now. But the first step is, so when I was going through that financial struggle, I was like, okay, I really would like to have a man in my life who is, married or gay, to help me. And so around everything, we've got like little strings attached. So the first step was to get clear on what it is that you want. So I had to, get clear that I actually wanted somebody who was not in relationship with me, well, not in like a sexual relationship with me, and who I just adored, who adored me, and we were just really, really good friends. So, and I wanted him to be married or gay because I wanted to make sure that we remained friends and didn't slip into that romantic relationship. So the first step was get clear. So for you, get clear on whatever it is that you want. So you may think that you want something, but then there are all these strings attached and all these, things that you think you need in order for that to happen, which it's not true. Just find the pure essence of what it is. So step number 1, get clear. Step number 2, release whatever it is that you perceive is in the way of that. So for me, I was like, so I had that clear intention, but then I was like, well, nobody, somebody who's married wouldn't want to, hang out with me and be my friend, or if they were gay, why would they want to hang out with me? So I had all of these insecurities or all these doubts around this clear intention. It was like, okay, why would that person, want to have anything to do with me? And part of my intention too was to offer them something just by being me, not by having to do anything, just by being me. So I didn't know what I would have to offer this person. So I had to let go of all of my muck that was in the way of this clear intention. So that's step 2. Step 2 is release all of the attachments and all of the things that you perceive would limit you or be in the way of your experiencing this clear intention. So step 2 is release everything in the way of that. Step 3 is to feel it in your heart as if it has already happened. So for me, what I did was, after I released all that stuff, and when I released it again, I used emotional freedom techniques, EFT, and go to emofree.com to figure out how to do that if you're not familiar with EFT. So for the third step, I felt it in my heart as if it had already happened. And another thing, I spoke this out loud. So I was just, walking around my living room, walking around my house, with my hand on my heart so that I knew where it was coming from, where it had to be coming from. And I said, I'm so happy that I have this new best friend who I adore, who adores me. And we have this great camaraderie, and he's just magnetic to money. And I'm learning from him, and that I am equally valuable to him in whatever way that I just show up. And it's just easy and effortless. And I'm just me. And that's a gift to him. So I felt that in my heart as if it had already happened. And I spoke it out loud, and I just really felt it in my heart. And the speaking it out loud allows it to, first of all, it's sound vibration, which is the work that I'm using now. And it allows you to hear yourself and get clear on that. And it increases the energy around it. So step 3 is feel it in your heart as if it has already happened. Step 4 is to morph that into gratitude. Just, I'm so happy and grateful. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. Just to feel that sense of it having already happened, and just turn it into pure gratitude, still from your heart. Turn it into gratitude and hold that energy for as long as you can. And then you need to let it go. So step 1 is get clear. Step 2 is release anything in the way of that. Step 3 is to feel it in your heart as if it already happened. Step 4 is to feel gratitude. And step 5 is to let it go. And so the night that I did that, I think it was probably like midnight. Like I started late. I think it was like midnight, and I had to go to bed because I had to get up early for work the next day. So I had to let it go because I was so energized. So again, I used EFT to just let it go. And I used the phrase, even though I love this idea, I deeply and completely accept myself, and I release and let it go. Even though I just would love to have this person in my life, I deeply and completely accept myself, and I release and let it go. So that allowed me to sort of be in that state of peace and tranquility so that I could actually get to bed. So again, get clear, let go of things in the way of it, feel it in your heart as if it already happened, morph that into gratitude, and then let it go. And then you just watch. There's no hypervigilance. You don't have to go back and do affirmations or any of that. You just let it go. And then the universe can then activate and work on your behalf to make things happen. And for me, I noticed, in retrospect, that things started activating the very next day.
Wow. Did you have a comment?
I on the reprogramming phrases after you've discharged the emotion. When I was with Ken Key's process, we would put our heads in a yellow wastebasket and yell our reprogramming phrases as loud as we could. It would reverberate in our ears, and then after you take that thing away, it keeps reverberating in your head.
That's great. That's awesome.
Okay, so that's the 5 keys to conscious creation.
Yes.
So you have what's the difference between the 5 keys to conscious creation and conscious alignments?
Okay, so a consciousness alignment is sort of the next progression of that. So the 5 keys to conscious creation is really doing it for yourself. you see that you want it for yourself. But what the consciousness alignments do, and then people can learn how to do the consciousness alignments as well. So I guess there's a step beyond that. But most people are interested in do it for me instead of they want to learn how to do it. But there are some that want to learn how to do it. But a consciousness alignment is done on your behalf. So let's say, a listener wanted a similar experience to what I had. They wanted, a friend in their life that can help them with a situation and, whatever. When I do a consciousness alignment, somebody told me that I'm accessing 6D reality. Now, I'm not one of those that, I'm not into like the 4D, 5D, 6D stuff. But, she told me and I was like, all right, let's just see what this is about. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's saying that you can, facilitate change on behalf of another instead of for them to need to, be hypervigilant and do processes and do all of this. And that's exactly what I do. So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe it is 60. Like, I don't know. So the difference is that a consciousness alignment is done for you, done on your behalf. And the 5 keys to conscious creation is you doing it for yourself. And the stories like of the Paulo Cunha and the author of the book and like the other, so there are people who have wanted soulmates and interns. Somebody was looking for interns that they wanted, and then I did a consciousness alignment for her, and that day she got 2 interns, and just like career advancement and like all sorts of different things that but I don't have the fun elaborate stories behind it. They're just kind of like, oh, I met a soulmate, and then after that. So but what it is it's done for you. And I found that if people cling to it, like as in, not allowing the universe to do its job, and they're like hypervigilant and like, where is it? It doesn't show up as quickly. So if you experience a consciousness alignment and you have doubts, those doubts will get in the way. If you're looking for it, those doubts will get in the way. So what I would recommend is if you listen to a consciousness alignment here or elsewhere and you're still looking for it, just listen to it again, because each time you listen to it, it'll break down your barriers, because you need to allow yourself to trust, because that other part of you, or that, when I'm doing a consciousness alignment, I'm accessing the part of me that is also the part of you, and expressing gratitude for these things dropping in your life. So if you find that you're not in a place of trust and peace, just listen to it again and listen to it until you feel like, okay, this is done, and you become bored with it. If you become bored with it, you're like, just whatever, I don't feel like listening to this anymore. Chances are you're in alignment with it, and it can happen. But if you're like, where is it? I'm in a state of panic. Where is it? And you keep bringing it back, it's harder for the universe to do its job, because you're clinging to it, and you have to let it go in order for it to come back. So that's the difference.
You could do it better than other people? Can you do this better than other people? Like, do you have a better track record of?
I don't know what other people's track records are, but I've had somebody do some sort of a reading for me, and she said that, again, this is like a realm that I'm not really familiar with, but she told me that there are like these helpers that we all have, and most people have, like 2 or 3. But when she did this reading for me, or whatever it was, probably sometime last year, she said that I had like 30. So I had these clusters, and it was like 30 plus. So and each, I don't know, but I have helpers. So I have like sort of cosmic helpers that are helping me. And she said that she's never met anyone before who has had that much sort of universal support in doing this. So I don't know.
Are any of your deceased relatives among your helpers?
I had somebody tell me that so all of the women in my family, like going way back, have been entrepreneurs in some way and have been very sort of community oriented. And I have had somebody tell me that, my female ancestors are helping me as well with this. So I don't know about, I don't really know, because it's not I try to, like I'm probably as far, like I'm left of woo. Like, so if Bernie Sanders is left, I'm left of woo woo, you know? But I don't really know, because I try to understand everything that I'm doing in a way that is not necessarily esoteric. Like I get the esoteric because that's what I'm all about, but I'm trying to understand the other side. So when it comes to like angels and helpers and, you know, ancestors helping and spirit guides and stuff like that, that's kind of, I don't delve so much into that realm, because I'm just really trying to understand it from like, why does this work? And I can only relate in a way that other people have told me what it is. But the thing that makes this work different from what other people do is that I can actually teach it. So most people will say, oh, well, you know, I have the gift. And it's not just that one woman who I first came across. It's other people who do things like this as well. They're like, I have the gift. Come to me and I will do it for you, which I can do that. But I can also teach people how to do it for themselves. Like I've had students who have, you know, when I teach a class, I teach a 12-week class. It's called Claim Your Divine Authority. And it's intense. So I do, I have a video module every week. I have a group call, and it's 12 weeks. And every week we do this. So I have a video module. I have a group call every week. I make them do peer calls so that they can practice with one another. And I have them do it on our calls. Like I have them practice on our calls as well. And then I have them find guinea pigs. I make them go out and find people to do this with so that they actually become active with it. But I actually teach people how to do it. And part of that is in imprinting or instilling in the people who I'm teaching that you're not separate. You know, you're not separate from all that is. And in fact, that potentiality or that idea that's there, that's sort of like lingering in the sort of in your mind, just sort of like hinting at you, is actually you as well. So you are, you know, all idea, all matter, all potentiality, and you are also the creative force that makes it all happen. So when the thing that makes my work different is not that I think it's necessarily more powerful than what other people do, but I actually, you know, empower other people to learn how to do it themselves.
You've also created a coherent field of many people, or a network of coherence, which has multiplies the power. What a beautiful system. I'm in awe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. So how can we get rid of COVID?
You know, I've been working. I think that we have some. It's funny because you know how, like I was talking about, how my struggles have allowed me to claim this, and I feel like our planet is undergoing one of those cleansing processes, like what I've had to go through, in the whole COVID thing. But I can do a consciousness alignment to integrate whatever. Like I can do as many consciousness alignments as you'd like. I can do for finances. I can do for, you know, soulmate connection. I can do for healing the planet and imprinting people with the right mindset to, you know, empower themselves with solutions that will heal the planet. I could do whatever you would like for me to do, and I just sort of fly by the seat of my pants when I do it. I just kind of say what comes, and I'm happy to do a consciousness alignment for whatever you would like, and I'd be happy to do that.
That's awesome, but I do have a thought.
Okay.
You said that you went through what you went through with your ex and every time you did it, it was, you know, a gift. Mm-hmm. What's the gift of COVID?
I don't, you know, I feel like, so we have been polluting our planet. We have been, you know, in this state of other, like, you know, like we see other people and, you know, like other religions, you know, and other races and other cultures. And, you know, we always sort of see them as not us, you know, separate from who we are. And COVID is like the great unifier, right? I mean, everybody is susceptible to this. It's not something that it doesn't, you know, pick on, you know, Democrats. It doesn't pick on Muslims. It doesn't pick on, 10-year-olds. It doesn't pick on, it's everybody. It targets everybody. And, if you don't think it's targeting you personally, it still is, because like if you go out and do something and you don't know that you have it, and then you see your mother who you love and you give it to your mother, it's still affecting you. So
Right.
it's like it flattens everything. It makes everybody equal in those eyes. So I feel like, it's making us look at what we've done to our home, both our bodies, our communities, our planet, each other, in all of this, you're you and I'm me, and we're two completely different things. And I feel like it's a unifier, and it's making us really look at the world and ourselves differently. And honestly, for me, so I mean, I'm sure you guys experience the same thing. People are really crabby now, and it's allowed me to generate more compassion, because I know that everybody's sick of having to wear masks, and sick of not being able to see your loved ones, and sick of not being able to travel and all of that. And, it makes you want to live a normal life again. But we have to go through this, because I feel like it's a big cleansing process for us to sort of get our stuff straight.
Yeah, a lot of yesterday, lots of calls, cranky people fighting, they feel trapped. So, okay, what did you want to say about that, honey?
I see with loving compassion the dilemmas people are giving themselves for their own growth without getting emotionally involved myself.
Deborah has a question. Go ahead, Deborah.
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kerri, that COVID was a great equalizer, right? I also think it was a mechanism to show us that our societal constructs that we've created have broken down and are not serving any of us well, right? And so how do we re-envision society after this? Because we're not going back to what normal was before this. Normal after this is going to be something different. So on that note, let me ask you some of my questions.
Okay.
So do you believe in reincarnation? Because some of my questions are connected to that. So that was why that's my first question out of the gate.
That's really funny. So I do, and then I'm not sure. So I actually went for a past life regression with somebody. It was like a 4-hour thing, this woman in New York City. And I experienced at such a visceral level these multiple lives. And then when it was all done, and it was so real, it was almost like the people that I experienced in this past life regression, like these like the tactile, like I could feel like a soft, like clay under my feet in one of these. I could feel the love that I had for this person that was in the room in one of the ones that I experienced. And it was so viscerally real to me. And then at the same time, when I was done, I said to the person who was doing the regression, I was like, so is this a construct of my mind, like to try and understand things that I'm going through now? Or, is it real? Is it like linear? And she was like, I don't know. So I don't know. Like, I have gone for a past life regression. I felt myself in these lives. I experienced the deaths. I believe that my a very good friend of mine that I've known for multiple lifetimes, like I was a slave, and we were in similar circles where I was hoping that he would be my suitor, and that just never showed up, and like all of these different things. But then at the same time, I don't know if I'm making that up. I don't know if everything is this moment of now. So I don't know. That's my.
Well, if you're making it up, where are you making it up from?
Yeah, that is my question.
I don't know. I guess in the mind, right? Because that's where everything exists, like all the potentiality. And then I wonder, is reincarnation, is like my experience of reincarnation, is that just me as universal consciousness experiencing somebody else? So I believe that we continue to live, that we continue to live. The time thing is what trips me up. So I don't know if time is actually a thing. So, I mean, we experience time in linear fashion, but there's no real evidence that time actually exists. So it's just very, I don't know, like, I guess in simple terms, yes, I believe in reincarnation. I believe that, I've had past lives with different people that I care about. And I believe that, yes, I've had that. But then at the same time, the other side of my brain is like, well, if time doesn't exist and all we have is now, and we're, infinitely creative, and we're making these things up in our mind, in, the mind, then is it actually true? Or is it just a vehicle to help us heal and understand aspects of our psyche? So I don't know. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer.
If time doesn't exist, then it's all simultaneous. So
yeah,
that's where you get trapped in this. If time doesn't exist, there can't be past lives, but it could just be concurrent lives or concurrent existences in different vibratory frequencies and what do you call it? Avatars that you incarnate within.
Yeah, and then we go further and further down the rabbit hole.
When you have multiple hypotheses, like is it in my head? No, it isn't in my head. And both, usually those are all parts of the same elephant of reality, and it's just a false separation that it has to be either or. It's merely your dualism acting, and you just need to be able to see it from a larger perspective to not have the dualism. That's what I would say if I was saying something.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Believing that reincarnation is possible, do you think there's such a thing as generational karma?
Yes.
Okay. And do you clear it the same way that you clear things that have occurred in this lifetime?
Yes. So actually, when I do a consciousness alignment, people laugh at me because I'll clear 10,000 generations or until it's complete. So, and people are like, we haven't even been here for 10,000 generations, but I don't know that. I mean, I don't know, have we or haven't we? Are we aliens that have been planted on this planet? I don't know. Maybe we were, maybe our heritage is, some like part alien, part Earth. I mean, who knows? I don't know. So I clear back 10,000 generations and then.
You couldn't
make a statement like that unless you knew that it was both true and untrue.
Do I know, or is it just my hypothesis? I don't know.
It's both.
Yeah, probably.
Have you worked with PTSD patients and had any success with that?
I have worked with people who have PTSD. I wouldn't since I'm not a clinical doctor, I wouldn't say I've worked with patients, but people who have experienced PTSD. I had a gentleman who had a experience of he lost his daughter. It was like a crib death thing, but he blamed himself for it. And he was not able to fully engage with his other children because he was afraid that he was going to harm them. Because what happened was, like, normally when you have kids, there's one person who's up all night with the kids and the other one sleeps. But what they did is, like, he would get up, like, he would hear the baby crying, he'd get up, he'd bring her to her mother, and then, she would nurse or whatever, and then he would bring her back to the crib. So both of them are up all night. And I guess there was this one night when he heard the baby crying, and he was just so tired he couldn't, whatever. And all of a sudden he wasn't crying anymore, and he blamed himself for her suffocating in her blanket or whatever. So I helped clear him of that. But this was before this work. This is when I was doing EFT, and I helped him clear that. And after that, he said that his life was completely transformed from that. So yes, I have worked with PTSD. I'm sure that there are people who have experienced PTSD who have heard me do consciousness alignments, but not everybody writes me and tells me of their story. People tell me, wow, my life has changed. It's different. I have a great job now. My husband and I are now getting along so much better. I'm losing weight, or, my sugar cravings are gone, or like whatever those things are. but specifically PTSD, I haven't worked with that in a while. So I would say yes in that one instance, and I'm not sure as far as the new work is concerned.
Now, I have a theory about time, which Dr. Lesson thinks I'm possibly on the right track. I look at time as a spiral. I think time is cyclical, and that it's like a spiral, right? With the newest time being at the bottom, like almost like a tornado, and the oldest time being at the top, right? And like Janet said, it's all happening simultaneously, right? So if you were to put a rod through that spiral, you could experience any moment in time at any point that you want to, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, time is a human construct. It doesn't really exist. And I also believe that quantum physics you thought was weird. I believe quantum physics is about science that we don't understand yet. And I also believe it's where spirituality and science meet.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they call, the stuff that they can't explain metaphysics, because they can't explain it.
Right. Well, you'll look, do you know Dr. Edgar Mitchell at all?
I have not. I've heard the name. I haven't.
Okay. So he was an Apollo astronaut. He passed away, I think, in 2014. Anyways, he was a big believer in quantum science. Him and a group of his contemporaries started what was called, I believe it's the Noetic Science Institute, Dr. Lesson. I'm not sure if I have that right. And they specialize in the study of this. And they have discovered a lot of explanations and theories and proofs that support, like, the gifts you have. They're not like spooky magic. They're real. Right. There's science behind it, right? Like, he did this one video that I have the gift of premonitions. And my whole life I've been made to feel like a freak. And after I watched this video he did, it's called ESP and the Quantum Hologram. At the end of it, I was like, I'm not a freak. There's a science that explains what I am, right? And it was the first time I felt validation in who I was, and I wasn't this loser like my family made me out to be.
Right.
So anyways, I suggest you look at some of his work. I think you'll find it extraordinarily interesting.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's it. That's all. That's my spiel.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we were going to do some, let me get this screen out of the way. Would you be willing to do some consciousness alignments for us? So we were talking about, I guess we should take a request. What would you like? Is there a request you have?
I would like a request for Janet. May Janet enjoy her here and now every second of her life. Every second of her not life.
I worry a lot.
Okay.
I guess that's what he wants me to be more relaxed.
Okay.
I want you to enjoy worrying. Worrying's what you like doing, honey.
Be present in worrying. No, I'm gonna. So what I'll do is I'll do a consciousness alignment to release worry and fear, to be present, and at ease with yourself and with life. How's that?
Okay.
And Janet, did you inherit that from your parents?
Oh yeah, my mother was the queen of worrying. Yes.
Okay. All right. So genetic. Okay. And so previous to probably about 5 months ago, I didn't actually believe in curses and things like that. I was just like, yeah, whatever. But I spoke to someone who actually a couple of people who said that they had experienced, genetic curses and things like that. So you may hear some language in this that you may or may not agree with as far as that. So just if you hear something, just let it slide, because it may or may not be relevant to you in your thought process now, but it may actually be relevant to your genealogy. And whatever things may be attached, or whatever like genetic attachments you may have, or energy attachments. So can I do it? Dr. Lesson, how would you feel if I did it instead of specifically for Janet, that I did it more open, so that those who are listening?
Yeah, so use your own judgment.
Okay.
That's excellent idea.
Okay. All right. And so to receive a consciousness alignment, what you need to do is you just need to listen to what I'm saying, and you need to be open to receiving. And a lot of people don't know. They're like, am I open? Am I not open? I don't know if I'm open. So just say yes to yourself while I'm saying it, so that you know that, you're receiving. Okay, here we go. Thank you, divine consciousness that lives in, through, and as me in all things, is both the voice that speaks and the ear that hears, and is all thought, all material manifestation, all potentiality. Thank you, thank you, thank you for releasing this person who's hearing my voice now from all fear, all anxiety, all thoughts that life is not working out in their way, now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. Thank you for releasing them from their genetic imprint, genetic or energetic imprint, from any stories, fears, limitations, distractions, contracts, curses, or anything, any contributing factors that may be in the way of this person experiencing complete peace, joy, and being at ease in their life. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. Thank you for releasing this person from 10,000 generations, or until it is complete. Thank you for releasing it from their DNA, from their genetic code, so that they can experience a new consciousness where they are at ease and at peace, and they can live in the luxury of knowing that they are steadfast in their truth, and they are present. And that presence is consciousness, God, divine, whatever they want to call it, living in, through, and as them. Thank you for releasing them from any sense of doubt or insecurity that they may be feeling, or they may have brought to this moment. They may have inherited from either genetic or energetic inheritances. Now, thank you for releasing them from anything in the way of this deep peace and calm in their lives, now across all time, space, dimension, and reality, in their physical body and their etheric body. Now, thank you for rewiring their neural pathways and neuroreceptors across all time, space, dimension, and reality, in their physical body and their etheric body, to live in this constant state of being at ease and at peace, and trusting themselves, trusting their lives. Now, across all time, space, dimension, and reality, in their physical body, in their etheric body, in every level of consciousness, every strand of DNA, every vibrating molecule, and every spinning atom. And thank you for releasing them from 10,000 generations and healing their entire genetic lineage, going back 10,000 generations, or until it is complete, and moving forward now and forevermore through the rest of their family lineage, now and forevermore, through their children and their children's children and all of their relatives. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now. Thank you, it's already done now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. And so it is. Okay, take a deep breath and push it all out. Take another deep breath and push it all out. How's that feel?
That's great. Deborah, do you have a request?
Okay.
Are you asking me?
Yes, your name's Deborah.
No, actually,
yes, it is.
No, I don't. I wasn't sure I heard my name. No, I'm kind of in a place in my life where I'm good. I don't have a lot of issues. I've kind of accepted life what it is, and I don't walk around with a lot of baggage. And, if I die tomorrow, I die happy.
That's the way we want to go.
Right? There was a time in my life.
COVID?
Well, that, can we do a clearing for COVID? I like that one.
I could do that.
Let's do a clearing for COVID.
All right. All right.
What were you going to say about the Time in my life, what? Before we go to COVID, there was a time in my life. What are we going to say, Deborah? Okay. Never mind. Go ahead.
All right. So, and my battery is running low, but it's not too low. I think it's at like 20%. So I'm still good. I don't want to change if I sound good, I don't want to change that. So hopefully it won't die before the end. So here we go. Okay. So again, just listen to my words and say yes to yourself while you're listening. Okay. Thank you, divine consciousness that lives in, through, and as all things, is both the voice that speaks, is the ear that hears, is all material manifestation, all potentiality, is every vibrating thought, every color, every sound, everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you for helping us to integrate the lessons that we need to learn, that COVID is showing us now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. Thank you for inspiring us to creative ideas that allow us to move forward and empower us to make this beautiful planet that we live on a better place. Thank you for healing our relationships with the planet, healing our relationships with ourselves, healing our relationships with each other, so that we can come together in a way that allows us to feel inspired and compassionate and loving towards ourselves first, and that branches out into our communities and our countries and our world at large, so that we experience a unity of knowing that we are all one. We are all one. And thank you for helping us to integrate these lessons. And thank you for inspiring us with new ideas, with new ways of living that allow us to live in more peaceful, sustainable, and ways that allow us to nurture ourselves and nurture the planet. Thank you for helping us to get through this and learn these lessons and hardwire these lessons into our DNA now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. Thank you for creating a collective compassion for each other in knowing that we have all gone through this together and we have come out so much stronger for it. And these challenges have catapulted us into a new level of awareness, a new way of being, a new way that we can access our creativity and allow ourselves to live more fulfilling lives and to live with greater joy and happiness and to live in greater harmony with each other and with ourselves and with our planet. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. Thank you for healing our entire lineage, the entire lineage of this planet, so that we now delete, uncreate, and transmute that old consciousness that created these problems. And thank you for bringing in a new consciousness, imprinting us with a new consciousness that allows us to access creative ideas and to be inspired to new ways of being and new ways of living. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now. Thank you, it's already done now across all time, space, dimension, and reality. And thank you for anchoring that into our neural pathways and our DNA. Thank you for anchoring that into our systems. Thank you for anchoring it now and moving forward now and forevermore into future generations so that they can inherit this new consciousness that allows us to live in harmony and compassion with our world, with ourselves, with each other. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now. Thank you, it's already done now. And so it is. Okay, take a deep breath and push it all out. Take another deep breath and push it all out. Okay.
Wonderful. So, what would you like our listeners to know that we haven't covered?
I think that's probably about it. If they want more, they can sign up for my website. It's at divinewithin.com, and there's some free consciousness alignments. And then if they're interested in, whatever monthly group calls or learning how to do it, then they can gain access from that by going there. But they'll receive 5 free consciousness alignments, one for finance, one for romance, one for spiritual connection, health and well-being, and joyful fulfillment. So they can just go there and download that, and whatever they feel inspired to do, they can do next.
We still have another 10 minutes, so let's.
If the United States was a person, and you were going to do a prayer for the United States, what would it be?
I think probably similar to what we just did, because we experience so much conflict, and all of that conflict arises from within our inner conflict. So it would probably be to heal and harmonize our relationships with ourselves, and have self-compassion, because most of us are not self-compassionate. Most of us typically are really hard on ourselves. Do you want me to do that prayer, Dr. Lesson?
Not if it's redundant. We get the idea. I just thought if there was something special about Los Estados Unidos, you'd have it for us.
Yeah, we're in this election year, and it seems like things are getting worse. And it seems like we're, our ability to have an honest election has disintegrated. We might have, civil war. There's all these things. It looks like we're rushing into it, like an avalanche, and we can't seem to get around it. And then on top of that, we've got, the global warming or the pollution and, the earth changes. And on top of that, with the potential for a nuclear holocaust. So it's being redundant, but it's like, no, it isn't. There's got to be more we can do. I love the earth. I love my planet. I love my country. I love being alive. I love the people and the animals. And I live here in incredible nature. And I'd like to see this continue till the end of time, if there's such a thing. Because there's so many souls that could really enjoy coming here and experiencing lives, and there's so much potential, so much we can do. And my mother was she went through the Depression, so she was traumatized. My dad was in World War II at the front, first in, last out. And we're here because of all these things and sacrifices that those who came before us did for this planet. And I would like to honor everybody. How many billions of souls have come through this sphere since its existence, and somehow balance it back so we can have this, I don't want a total utopia, there's nothing left to do, but something that's not at the what do you call, 11:59 and 23 seconds, we're like hitting the clock. Go ahead, Todd.
So we have to lift the curse of slavery and its results, and love everybody here, and give everybody the support they need to actualize themselves.
Yeah, it feels like we built energy here, and it's like this is the climax. And the climax is like, I remember Star Wars, I watched it 20 times. At the end, that da-da-da, the trumpets blaring and the shiny R2-D2. I mean, it seems like our planet deserves that. And so and you've got these 30 or 40 whatever beings that are helping do this, whoever these ancestors are, these guides or extraterrestrials. And I feel their energy because I've got the goosebumps right now. So I'm putting it back to you because I haven't done this before, but you've done it over and over. You've done it for yourself personally, and I'm going to just put it back to you because you know exactly the right thing to do right now.
So when it comes to the United States, I kind of feel like going back to the COVID thing, that COVID is teaching us these, like, it's because of COVID that we're seeing all of this upheaval and everything, and everything is sort of being magnified. So I can definitely, if you'd like, I can do a consciousness alignment just to specifically heal our country. I do feel like I kind of covered it in the other one, but I'm definitely willing to go back and do another one for that, because I feel like everything is so apparent right now, like we're talking about the election fraud and things like that, and defunding the post office so that we can't do mail-in ballots and stuff like that. It's just crazy, but it's all coming to the light. Like, it's all like people are like raging against it. They're like like pounding on the walls of oppression kind of thing. And I feel like COVID is, amplifying all of that. So I feel like it's kind of doing its job in showing us all of this. And because, it's that extra stressor that kind of is the tipping point for everything. So I actually feel like we're going to be coming out of it, like you say, in a new normal that's going to be a completely different normal than has ever been experienced before. And I personally feel like that new normal is going to be something that I can be proud to hand down to my children and their children. But, who knows? That's what I'm seeing or hoping.
Okay.
Do you...
No, don't do the same one twice. It's something different.
Well, I'm not sure where to go. It's like there's something. It's like it's the tip of the tongue phenomena, right?
Why don't I just do a short consciousness on what we have 10 minutes, right?
Less than that. We have about
five minutes.
5 minutes.
All
right. I'll do a quick one, so that you can close out the show, and we'll just see what comes up. How's that?
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, divine consciousness that lives in, through, and as all beings, all things, is all thought, all potentiality, all material manifestation, all hopes, all dreams, all intentions. Thank you, thank you, thank you for healing this country, the United States of America, allowing us to integrate these lessons that we've learned from COVID, integrate the lessons that we've learned politically, integrate the lessons that we've learned from our heritage of slavery, and to bring healing to all of that and beyond, everything that touches, everything that all of those things touch and beyond. Thank you for healing that in a way that I and the people on this call, and probably even the people that are listening, could not even anticipate, that is so much greater, so much better, so much more amazing than we could ever imagine. Thank you for healing us across all time, space, dimension, and reality, and our entire lineage of our country. And thank you for healing our relationships with our native and Aboriginal peoples, and healing our relationships with those who have come from other countries, because we've all come from other countries except for our native and Aboriginal peoples. So thank you for healing our relationships with ourselves, with our country, with our communities, and with all of each other. Thank you for creating a tolerance and a compassion for whether one is right politically or left politically, whether one is from a slave descendant or from a white descendant. Thank you for healing our relationships with ourselves and with each other, so that we can look each other in the eye with love and compassion and full acceptance and gratitude for the experiences that we've had together. And thank you for healing that across all time, space, dimension, and reality, in our physical bodies, in our etheric bodies, going back 10,000 generations or beyond, so that we can completely heal and bring that to the table, and allow for our children, our children's children, and all of our future generations to live in this state of healing, and knowing that they are one, and live with their brothers and sisters in compassion and gratitude and a sense of accomplishment for what we've done. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now, across all time, space, dimension, and reality, every level of consciousness, every strand of DNA, every vibrating molecule, and every spinning atom, now and forevermore, now and forevermore. Thank you, it's already done. Thank you, it's already done now. And so it is. Okay, take a deep breath and let it all out. Take a deep breath and let it all out.
Wow. Say something, I'm sneezing.
Something I'm sneezing.
That's powerful stuff, you know. It makes us all sneeze. Wow. So what do you do for an encore?
I'm hoping to be on TV someday. Get this out a little bit more. A little bit more.
Yeah.
Have you come to peace with your ex-old man?
Yeah.
I have, personally I have, but I still can't invite him over for dinner. It's not something I'm really willing to do. My kids are still, they just, they're 21 and 20, and, it's still, a little fresh, but I don't hate him. There was a time when I, was wishing that he would, have a run-in with a tree, but I don't hate him anymore. I'm grateful for what, we've gone through and that I've grown so much. I don't know if he's necessarily grown so much, but that's his thing. But I'm very grateful for the experience that we've had together. And I'm grateful for our children, but really this work would not be here.
Is there any of his traits that you couldn't stand that you now value as your own?
Well, he went to school for engineering physics. And he used to, when we were not doing so well together, he would mock my spiritual side. But, I can appreciate the analytical mind, about him more. And I would say that probably that I've integrated some.
Beautiful.
So
I wonder if he got something from you too. I bet you he did.
Probably. I don't know what that would be. He got his kids.
How about his intuitive and spiritual self? You modeled it for him.
Yeah, but he's not really a spiritual kind of guy. His religion is science. So I don't know. I don't know. We can't talk. He's blocked on my phone and things like that because he's the type of personality that he just comes after me, and I can't reason with him, but it's
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. But it's okay.
Hopefully someday, maybe on the other side, you guys will reconcile.
Yeah, I believe, I believe that we have helped each other in great ways. So yeah, it's all good.
That's the end of our show.
Thank you. What a great show. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome stuff. Touch. Much love, blessings, and aloha to everybody. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Revolution Radio. Thank you, Kerri. Hello.